We're so excited to be here on Theodore Roosevelt Island in Washington, D.C. as we celebrate our Model Leader of the Month, Sally Jewell.
Thank you.
And Sally is the former CEO of REI, the former Secretary of Interior for President Obama, and she and I got to work together at the Partnership for Public Service for many years as we worked to develop public service leadership and public service leaders across the federal government. Excited to talk to you today about your leadership in this beautiful setting. So why don't we go for a walk?
Sounds great.
So Sally, tell us about your own personal leadership model that helps guide your behaviors in leadership.
I think the bottom line is it starts with respect and listening to people. You know, nobody gets out of bed every morning and says, I want to do a lousy job. People want to feel valued for what they do, no matter what that job is. So whether you are a scientist in the Department of the Interior or you are the best salesperson in an REI store, or you're new on the job and you're stocking socks and it's really difficult, you want to feel valued. You want to know you're part of something bigger. And so I'd say my leadership style is around listening, and it's around respecting that position. And a lot of times it means working alongside those people.
We know that it's a very divisive time in the country and really on so many fronts, including the environment. What are ways that you have built bridges across differing views on this really crucial issue?
It's so important to sit across the table from someone that thinks differently than you. When I was going through my confirmation hearings as Secretary of the Interior, talking to 50 different senators, it was really important to me that I got to know them a little bit and listened to them. And it didn't take long before there was something that we resonated with together. And I think that that was surprising for both of us, but you begin to develop sort of a respect and trust. And as a phrase that I love, which is progress moves at the speed of trust. And you're not going to get anything done in the US Congress. You're not going to get anything done in business. You're not going to get anything done in an organization that you lead if you don't have trust.
Can you share an example of where you found some resonance across the aisle?
The Land and Water Conservation Fund. I mean, that has put dollars into parks like this one that we're walking in today in Washington, D.C. by taking revenue from oil and gas offshore and putting it into parks. And there are so many senators that really valued that regardless of political party. Who doesn't love nature? There is common ground for almost all of us.
What can we do to help inspire and motivate young people to want to create that same connection?
You know, my feeling is young people always want to create those connections. They're yearning for mentorship. They're yearning for engagement. It provides an easy opportunity as a leader to say, what do you get excited about? Or what worries you? And they oftentimes will turn it back and say, well, you know, why should I even be hopeful? And you could say, here's why. Here's what I've seen. Here's where your talents could fit in. And then all of a sudden, you know, you have found sort of common ground on what's needed with what they have to offer. At REI, when I was there, we had kind of a mission statement. We inspire, educate, and outfit for a lifetime of outdoor adventure. But when I took over as CEO, I said there's something missing. We inspire, educate, and outfit for a lifetime of outdoor adventure and stewardship. And that was really about saying, you know, we don't want to exploit these places. We want to care for these places. And sometimes we weren't maybe visiting with respect. We weren't thinking about how important this peak was that we were bagging to the Native American community, to their origin stories, to things like that. And so stewardship to me is, it's really listening and appreciating your community, your environment, and how it all fits together. And then how can you be, you know, part of that community that makes it better over time.
How do you define that word of stewardship?
Stewardship, I think, is about care and ownership and saying, what can I do to leave this organization, this environment, this community better because of the work that I do to care for it.
So we are here on Roosevelt Island, which commemorates his memorable leadership. And as he famously said, the nation behaves well if it treats the natural resources as assets, which it must turn over to the next generation increased and not impaired in value. So what behaviors can leaders adopt today to embrace the stewardship?
I think it's important to pull back and say we actually have not been abiding by what Teddy Roosevelt suggested to us. We've exploited our resources in a way that's not renewable. They've also helped fuel our growth. But we now are stepping back at this time of climate change and environmental degradation and saying, oops, we went too far. So I think that what we need to do now is we need to heal. We need to understand the impact that we had, and we need to begin to take steps and align our policies with taking care of the environment. How do we align economic interests with environmental interests? How do we recognize that our assets are not unlimited, and it takes courage, and it takes leadership, and it takes examples, and sometimes maybe the business community or the activists or the NGOs need to take a leadership role and pull the elected officials along with them.
We're ending with a lightning round here, Sally. So many of us experienced the awe of the eclipse this last week. I'm curious about a time you could share when you have been just in total awe of the natural world.
I stood on the top of Mount Vinson in Antarctica. You look out all around you, you can actually see the curvature of the earth. And it is all white as far as you can see. You feel very small, and you see just the awe of nature without the impact of mankind. It's just extraordinary.
What is the most underrated national park?
Oh boy, that's a good question. People think about big iconic places. They don't think about places like Beaufort, South Carolina, where the Emancipation Proclamation was read. They don't think about Anniston, Alabama, where the Freedom Riders were attempted to be burned alive by the Ku Klux Klan. They don't think about the impact of Cesar Chavez on the farm workers movement. They don't think about Stonewall National Monument, which actually allowed LGBTQ people to feel like they were part of this country too. I just encourage people to open their eyes to look at the historic and the cultural national monuments that really talk about our journey, both painful and proud.
Share with us an admired leader you have who is an advocate and ally of the natural world.
Oh my goodness. Rachel Carson. You know, not allowed to be a leader in the classic sense, not allowed to practice her work as a wildlife biologist, not allowed to be a scientist that she was. She was a writer that captivated our country in her book Silent Spring and saying to everyone, you know, are we going to go down this superhighway that ends in our own destruction, which by the way we're still on? Or are we going to take the path less traveled? And boy, that is leadership that has stood the test of time, and so I'm a deep admirer of Rachel Carson.
What is a recent outdoor adventure you've been on, and what's your next one?
Recent outdoor adventure was skiing with my grandson.
Oh.
Super fun. And my next one, I am trying very hard to protect a big chunk of my summer so I can sail to the north end of Vancouver Island, which is a place that an ancestor of mine traversed when surveying the Inside Passage. And so we're going to try and retrace some of his footsteps and enjoy nature and enjoy the company of family and friends along the way.
It's been so wonderful having this time here with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be with both of you, and you know, I appreciate what you're doing to shine a light on different types of leadership and to inspire people, including me, through your newsletter and through your work about what we can do to be better. And also a call to action to us to continue to lead no matter where we are in our careers.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.